The story opens with Toru Iban, a warrior in the hero's S-rank party. They are a well-oiled machine, taking down monsters with ease. Their camaraderie seems unbreakable, a bond forged in battle. But later, inside a tavern, his world comes crashing down. The party leader, the hero Cyan, declares that Toru is expelled. Toru freezes, his mind struggling to process the words. Sane, his supposed best friend, covers his face in fake regret. He says he'd be too sad to see his friend die on the battlefield. Toru's fiancée, Lisa, looks on with a cold, distant expression. She states calmly that he's weak, a hindrance to them all. As she speaks, Toru's eyes fixate on her hand. The engagement ring he gave her is gone. He asks her where it is, his voice trembling. A wave of profound shock ripples through him. A dark, terrible realization begins to form in his mind. He thinks to himself that this is what it's all about. A vision floods his senses. Sane embracing a smiling Lisa, his best friend and his fiancée together. He clutches his head, unable to comprehend the betrayal. Sane smirks, telling him to stay away from them. Something inside Toru finally snaps. He lets out a guttural roar of pure rage. His fist flies, connecting hard with Sane's jaw. But the hero just smiles, a bloody, twisted grin on his face. Toru grabs him by the collar, demanding to know why. Before he can land another blow, he's thrown across the room. The rest of the party glares at him, calling him scum. He stares back in disbelief as they all side with Sane. Lisa screams at him, her voice filled with venom. She tells him to stay away from them forever. Defeated, he turns and walks out of the tavern. The small ring he carried clatters onto the wooden floor. He wanders alone, the cold rain matching the storm in his heart. This was supposed to be his life, his family. Lying in a field, he pulls up his character status. Level 20. He knows his stats are pathetic. His unique skill, experience savings, has done nothing. He thinks if he'd been stronger, none of this would have happened. Just then, a black demon dog emerges from the grass. Toru glares at it, ready to unleash all his pent-up rage. He lets out a roar and brings his sword down hard. The monster is sent flying, defeated in a single, brutal strike. As it falls, something inside him begins to crack. A cascade of system notifications floods his vision. His experience savings skill has shattered. The payout is increased 100 times. His level suddenly skyrockets from 20 to 300. A wave of energy envelops him as his body is reconstructed. The system announces his race has changed to Dragon Man. He stares at his new status, utterly stunned into silence. He thinks back, trying to make sense of the situation. The saving skill had been automatic all along. It was storing all the experience he should have earned. All that time he thought he was falling behind. It hits him with the force of a physical blow. Now it all makes sense. A low, quiet chuckle escapes his lips. The sound grows, building into a wild, triumphant laugh. He looks up at the sky, his future suddenly wide open. He decides then and there to travel the world on his own. With his newfound power, there is nothing left for him to fear. His journey begins in the border town of Livia. While exploring the bustling streets, he stops before a strange shop. The sign above the door marks it as a slave store. He thinks of the smiling faces of his former comrades. He remembers their casual, devastating betrayal. A slave, he reasons, is bound by a magical contract. They can never betray their master. He doesn't care about trust anymore. He just wants peace of mind. He steps inside, asking the shopkeeper for a battle companion. He's shown a powerful lizard man worth 30 million. His budget is far too low for such a prized warrior. The merchant leads him toward the cheaper cages in the back. These are filled with the weak, the sick, and the untrained. His gaze sweeps over them, and then his eyes lock on one. A young girl sits alone in a corner, staring back with an intense gaze. For a moment, he sees her eye glow with a draconic light. She flinches as he approaches, cowering in fear. The merchant explains she's very sick, which is why she's so cheap. Toru kneels down, his expression softening. He gently asks for her name, and she whispers, "Kaede." He doesn't hesitate. He tells the merchant he'll buy this child. With the contract complete, he carries her frail body from the store. He goes straight to a pharmacy, seeking a doctor's help. The doctor examines her, revealing she's from a rare beast race. Her disease is nearly unheard of, and there is only one cure. It requires a potion made from the heart of a dragon. Kaede looks up at him, her eyes wide with terror and despair. Toru simply offers her a gentle, reassuring smile. He tells her he needs her to get better for his sake. He promises her she'll be all right in no time at all. At a quiet cafe, a sudden shock runs through Toru. He throws his hands up, his face a mask of disbelief. This feeling, he knows it all too well. He wonders how much power he just gained. Have his skills broken the limits again? A wave of energy blasts outwards, knocking Kaede from her seat. Toru slumps onto a bench, his head in his hands. He's completely distressed by his uncontrollable power. He gets up and extends a hand to Kaede. He apologizes for scaring her. She looks up at him, a dazed look in her eyes. She tells him her master is a great man. He scratches his head, asking if he's really that great. Cade gives him a radiant smile and an enthusiastic thumbs up. He checks his status screen, his eyes widening. His skills have jumped all the way to level 50. He thinks to himself that this is impossible. The normal limit is supposed to be level 10. He worries what will happen when his final skills are released. He turns to Kaede, asking if there's anything she wants. She hesitates, her face flushing with embarrassment. He gently reassures her, telling her she can ask for anything. She looks away, denying there's anything she desires. Then she quietly admits she wants some soap. He stares at her, surprised by such a simple request. Later, they stand outside the bathroom in their inn. Kaede asks, mortified, if they are really going in together. He replies nonchalantly that he isn't interested in a girl's body. She lets out a cry, covering her face in pure embarrassment. Inside, Toru offers to wash her long hair for her. She blushes, shyly trying to refuse his offer. He looks at her sternly, telling her it's an order. She sits down obediently on a small wooden stool. He smiles, pleased with her compliance. He gently lathers her hair, his touch surprisingly careful. As he rinses, he notices something on her back. A fluffy, white animal tail sways gently behind her. He asks her what breed of beast folk she is. She looks down, shyly telling him she is a fox. He thinks for a moment, recalling something. He's heard fox types usually have golden fur. Just then, he loses his footing on the wet floor. He slips, crashing right on top of her in the bath. He quickly scrambles up, apologizing profusely. Kaede says she doesn't mind at all. Not if it's what her master desires. He freezes, troubled by her unwavering submission. The next morning, he watches as she trims her own hair. He finds himself thinking how beautiful she looks. He then notices she has human ears as well as fox ears. He reaches out and gently touches one of her fox ears. She jumps, surprised by the sudden contact. Later, an old man explains a local legend. The god who created the beast race simply loved ears. Toru mutters that it sounds like a weird fetish. Kaede sighs, agreeing that it certainly seems that way. That evening, Kaede looks at him with a bright smile. She tells him she had a really good time today. He smiles back, promising that tomorrow will be even more fun. The next day, however, Toru sits on his bed, completely dejected. He explains that the smith charged him a fortune for repairs. Kaede looks at him, confused by his story. He recounts what happened the day before. He was simply cleaning his sword, when the blade suddenly shattered in his hand. He had gone to a weapon shop to find a new one. The shopkeeper sold him the sturdiest sword in the store. Happy with his purchase, he took it outside. He gripped the hilt and gave it one simple test swing. In that instant, the brand new sword cracked and broke. He finishes his story, completely at a loss for what to do. But Kaede just smiles, an idea forming in her eyes. She tells him she knows of the perfect weapon for him. She leads him to a cliff overlooking sprawling ancient ruins. This is the Temple of the Sacred Arms. Inside, legendary weapons await a chosen hero. Kaede is sure her master is the one. They stand before a massive, handleless gate, the first trial. Toru places his hand on the stone surface. A blinding light erupts, and the heavy doors grind open. Inside, they find it, a huge sword embedded in a stone pedestal. Toru kneels, gripping the hilt with both of his hands. He closes his eyes and pours his power into the weapon. A brilliant light explodes from his body in a blinding flash. The stone pedestal beneath the sword cracks and shatters. With a deafening crash, it explodes into 1,000 pieces. Toru is left sitting on the floor, holding the massive sword. Kaede congratulates him, her eyes full of admiration. He looks away, embarrassed by her endless praise. Side by side, they walk towards a new city and a new adventure. Far away, a different journey had begun. It started 1 month ago, in the city of Luntada. Toru, once a hero, was back to being a low-rank adventurer. His new companion, the young Kaede, registered with him. In the bustling city, Toru explained the life of an adventurer. He told her about the dungeons hidden beneath the world. They were filled with monsters, materials, and treasure. The ultimate prize was a core stone, deep within. They would go to the dungeon tomorrow. Entering the ancient stone halls, they prepare for their first run. He tells her they'll just explore the first floor. Kaede eagerly agrees, ready to begin. But as giant rats appear, she unleashes her magic. "Wind cutter!" she cries, and the monsters are torn apart. Toru looks on, a little surprised. He knew she could use magic, but this was impressive. In just 1 hour, she's already level 15. "What?" he exclaims, completely shocked. He checks his own status, a realization dawning. His experience multiplier skill. It was affecting her too. Kaede just smiles, vowing to get stronger for her master. Her power grows at an unbelievable rate. On the 3rd floor, she faces down a group of Cyclopes. A single spell, Blizzard Blossom, freezes them all solid. Vines erupt from the ground, ensnaring even more foes. She stands amidst the chaos, a confident smile on her face. Soon, she's cleared all the enemies on the floor. She's already level 30, but still feels it isn't enough. She wants to be a worthy rearguard for her master. Meanwhile, Sane, the man who betrayed Toru, laughed. He had used his demonic eye to steal Toru's lovers. Now he was surrounded by them, living a hero's life. He mused that it was time to fight the Demon Lord, but first he needed to acquire the sacred arms. The thought of the glory ahead filled him with glee. His journey led him to a town near a dragon's lair. A massive red dragon protected the sacred arms. But in that same forest, Toru and Kaede were traveling. The colossal beast descended upon them from the sky. It was a creature no ordinary party could hope to defeat. Toru simply drew his sword, his eyes calm. With a single, blindingly fast slash, the fight was over. The dragon crashed to the ground, utterly lifeless. Nearby, in a hidden shrine, a faint light pulsed. Toru pushed open the ancient stone doors. Resting on an altar was a set of sacred arms. He takes the treasure, unaware of its true owner. A short time later, Semirhan's party arrives in town. A scout rushes in, with unbelievable news. The dragon has already been defeated? Sane is stunned. He demands to know who did it. But the dragon slayer is a complete mystery. They find the creature's corpse in the woods. Enraged, Sane slams his fist into a tree. He orders a change of plans. They must get the arms now. They rush to the hidden shrine on the mountain. But as they arrive, the altar is bare. Sane screams, his voice echoing in the empty chamber. The sacred arms are gone? He falls to his knees in utter disbelief. He turns on his companions, screaming and blaming them. In his rage, a single, terrifying thought takes hold. This all started when Toru left the party. A silhouette of his old friend flashes in his mind. He realizes who must be responsible. Toru. Sane's face twists in hate. He vows to kill him. Toru, meanwhile, remains blissfully unaware. He and Kaede have finished their dungeon crawl. They found a rare magic storage box on the floor. With their supplies low, they finally head back to town. They cash in their loot, earning a small fortune. At a restaurant, Kaede orders a feast for them both. Toru is surprised by the mountain of food. She beams at him, a huge plate in her hands. She tells him food is more delicious when shared. "So let's eat together," she says with a bright smile. Toru is touched by her simple kindness. He reflects on his past life, full of hardship and betrayal. But since meeting Kaede, every day has been better. He hopes this journey can fill the emptiness in his heart. But that fragile peace was about to be shattered. The next morning, a frantic voice shakes him awake. "Master, please wake up." It's Kaede, and her voice is filled with panic. He groggily opens his eyes to see her kneeling on the bed. And then he freezes, his own eyes snapping wide. Kaede clutches the sheets, tears streaming down her face. Her body, it had matured into a young woman overnight. "What do I do?" she cries out, terrified and confused. Toru just stares, completely and utterly speechless. Toru stammers, asking if it's really her. The woman with fox ears just smiles and says yes. He scratches his head, trying to make sense of it all. She explains her body grew to balance her new power. It happened because of her sudden level increase. He recalls his own race changed when he leveled up. He realizes he can't treat her like a child anymore. Kaede clutches her small, torn clothes, looking downcast. Flustered, he yells at her to put something on. He finds one of his own oversized shirts for her. She puts it on, looking up at him expectantly. He covers his face, blushing at the improper sight. They go shopping for a proper outfit for her. She strikes a pose, asking how she looks now. Toru gives a thumbs up, saying it suits her perfectly. Her face flushes with pure, unadulterated joy. He decides they'll focus on leveling her up today. They head into a tall, ancient-looking dungeon. A horde of skeletons immediately charges toward them. Kaede casts a single spell, wiping them all out. Toru looks almost bored, admitting he's getting sleepy. She gently pats her lap, offering a place to rest. He wakes up to find the area littered with bones. She smiles, saying she handled things while he slept. He's stunned. She beat them all without taking a step. He asks to see her stats, a thought forming in his mind. He stares at the screen, his eyes locking onto one skill. A rare ability called Power Boost, the kind of skill every famous mage dreams of having. He looks over at her, a realization washing over him. This girl was going to become a big star. His doubts vanish. He asks if she wants to go deeper. On a lower floor, Toru screams as a minotaur lunges, but Kaede is perfectly calm, ice forming on her hand. With a single word, she freezes the beast solid. Toru stares at the ice statue, completely speechless. He thinks to himself, she's already level 200. Why was he even still worrying about her? At last, they reach the dungeon's final floor. A giant, glowing crystal core floats before them. Kaede insists that he be the one to touch it. He reaches out, wondering what reward awaits him. A voice cries out for her master. A young man named Toru sits up, dazed and confused. Opposite him, the fox-eared Kaede tells him to look up. They are at the bottom of an immense, dark chasm. The dungeon they just cleared has completely vanished. Kei points to his hand, asking about the new ring he wears. He looks down, finding a simple band on his finger. He realizes Kaede has one as well. It's the reward for clearing the labyrinth so quickly. Kaede uses her appraisal skill on the ring. It can completely disguise their status from others. Toru thinks to himself that this could be very useful. He decides it's time to get out of the hole. He scoops Kaede into his arms, ready to leave. She lets out a surprised cry as he holds her close. With a powerful leap, he begins scaling the chasm wall. 2 days later, they travel through a crystalline forest. They are heading to the city of Einarch. This is a trip to heal his wounded heart. They stop to visit some ancient, overgrown ruins. Toru smiles, saying ruins are a man's romance. Kaede asks if he has a name for their new party. He ponders for a moment, then looks to the sky. He suggests the Roaming Brigade. Kaede agrees, her eyes closing in a happy smile. It's settled. They'll explore the world together. As they rest, Toru asks a difficult question. He wants to know how Kaede became a slave. Before she can answer, a sound interrupts them. A carriage is speeding down the path, fleeing from something. Toru's face hardens. He tells Kaede they're going to help. Kaede draws her dagger, ready for a fight. She leaps from the trees, a blur of motion. Hooded men on horseback are pursuing the carriage. One of them shouts for the carriage to stop. Toru appears as if from nowhere, right beside the driver. He smirks, greeting the bandit with a casual "yo." Then he sends the man flying with a single, powerful kick. The other bandits pull up, surrounding him. They demand to know who the hell he is. Two of them charge forward, swords raised. They shout that they're going to kill him. Toru braces himself, his eyes sharp and focused. A wave of unseen force erupts from his body. The men and their horses are thrown into the air like toys. Toru looks at the chaos, stunned by his own power. He thinks to himself that he might have overdone it. In the distance, an arrow pins another bandit to a tree. It was Kaede, providing cover with her bow. She stands over a defeated enemy, completely in control. With the threat gone, they approach the carriage. A noble young woman steps out, her dress immaculate. She doesn't know who they are, but she thanks them for their help. Kaede gasps, her eyes wide with shock. She cries out, "Master!" The noblewoman introduces herself as Marianta, daughter of a count. She says she's already late and hurries away. Toru later introduces himself as an adventurer. He then casually states that Kaede is his slave. Marianta's eyes light up with excitement. She grabs his hands, beaming with gratitude. She insists they come to her mansion as thanks. Toru is reluctant, but her servant ushers them into the carriage. Inside, Marianta invites them to stay the night. Toru tries to refuse, not wanting to impose, but Kaede quietly says she will go wherever her master goes. Soon, a magnificent city appears in the window. Marianta proudly announces, "It's our city, Einarch." They arrive at a grand, sprawling manor. The staff lines the entrance hall to welcome them. A maid named Urarara introduces herself as Marianta's personal servant. She leads Toru to a stunningly luxurious bedroom. He lets out a whoop of joy and dives onto the massive bed. Kaede watches from the doorway, trying to hide her smile. Later, Marianta offers to show them around her city. The maid, Urara, questions if Toru can truly protect her lady. He calmly reveals he was once an S-rank adventurer. Her eyes widen in disbelief at his quiet confidence. Out in the town, Marianta points out a famous sweet shop. Toru hands Kaede a heavy bag of coins for an allowance. Kaede stares at the money, completely stunned. He thinks to himself that this journey is to heal his heart. A painful memory of a woman named Senya Lisa flashes in his mind. As they walk, they come across a massive statue in the square. Marianta explains it's a statue of her father, the Lord. Toru smiles, commenting that it's a nice statue. Marianta blushes, saying her father was embarrassed by it. In that peaceful moment, the ground begins to tremble. People in the town square cry out in confusion. The earth cracks violently, splitting the square apart. Debris flies into the air as the world turns to chaos. From the chasm, thick, shadowy tentacles erupt. Marianta lets out a scream of pure terror. The tentacles coil around her, lifting her off her feet. Toru's face drains of all color. He watches in horror, unable to move. Her lady's maid Urara is frozen in shock. Kaede can only stare, her weapon still sheathed. A guttural scream rips from Toru's throat. He cries her name into the dust and chaos. The chamber is filled with smoke and dust. A deep, cruel laugh echoes from within. The demon lord is certain of his victory. He gloats that no one could survive an attack like that. But as the smoke clears, a figure stands untouched. Toru looks down at his clothes, dusting off his shoulder. He lets out a small, unimpressed sigh. He looks up, his eyes locking with the demon lord's. He asks him if he's satisfied now. The demon lord's triumphant grin freezes on his face. Toru tells him it's impossible for him to get hurt by that. The words hang in the air, cold and absolute. The demon's face contorts with rage and disbelief. He screams that if Toru survived, he must be a monster too. He points a finger, gathering crackling energy. "Grenades splash," he roars. Another barrage of explosive energy flies toward Toru. Toru simply watches it approach, his expression unreadable. Then, in the blink of an eye, he vanishes. The demon lord's eyes widen in confusion. The attack screams past where Toru was standing. It slams directly into an armored demon soldier in the back. There is a flash of light and a sickening crunch. The smoke from this smaller blast clears instantly. The armored soldier remains standing, perfectly still. But its head is completely gone. Just a swirling void above its neck. The demon lord stares, his mind unable to process it. "WHY?" he stammers. "What the hell, you bastard!" A forgotten terror grips him. His eyes are wide with shock. He whispers that it can't be the hero of the prophecy, but he shakes his head, fury replacing his fear. Prophecy or not, he still has a hostage. His eyes dart toward the massive slug creature. He reaches into its flesh and pulls Marianta free. He holds her limp body in front of him like a shield. Her eyes are filled with tears and terror. The demon lord grins, his confidence returning. He yells that when a pretty girl is taken hostage, the situation always stays in his control. He lets out a booming, mocking laugh. "Boo-wah-ha-ha, what's with that face?" He asks Toru if he plans to forgive him. He asks if he even has it in him to kill. Toru doesn't answer. His gaze is fixed, his body completely still. A single vein bulges on his temple. The smile on the demon lord's face falters slightly. Then Toru speaks, his voice low and steady. He says that's not happening. He states that he is going to be the one to kill him. His eyes burn with an intensity that chills the air. The demon lord feels a genuine spike of fear. In a clear, ringing voice, Toru makes a declaration. "Protector of the town." Before the demon can react, Toru explodes into motion. He lunges forward with impossible speed. The demon lord flinches back, shouting, "Huh!" He never expected this level of aggression. But Toru isn't aiming for him. Not yet. He stomps his foot hard on the stone floor. The ground cracks beneath his heel. The series of violent explosions erupts in a straight line. They race across the chamber, directly towards the demon. The blasts detonate with concussive force. The demon lord is thrown off balance by the shockwaves. Toru stands at the far end of the scorched path he created. He points a finger at the stunned demon. He warns him that if he gets any closer, he'll make sure he becomes the powder protector. The demon lord roars, his pride wounded. He's furious, enraged, utterly humiliated. He funnels all his remaining power into his hands. He screams, "That was the wrong choice. Wrong choice, human, die." He unleashes a final, desperate wave of projectiles. Dozens of explosive discs scream through the air. They converge on Toru from all sides. Toru doesn't even flinch. He looks at the incoming storm of death and calmly tells the demon to try it. In the instant before impact, he moves. A blur of motion, too fast for the eye to see. He appears directly in front of the horrified demon lord. His fist is cocked back, glowing with contained power. He swings upward in a brutal, decisive arc. The strike connects perfectly with the demon's jaw. Marianne's eyes flutter open, hazy and confused. She touches her temple, asking her maid what happened. A sudden jarring memory flashes through her mind. Dark figures, a broken wall, and a sense of terror. She gasps, realizing she was kidnapped. The news of her recovery spreads like wildfire. The entire town erupts into joyous celebration. Toru watches from a distance, a relieved smile on his face. The grateful villagers surround him and Kaede. They shower the heroes with praise and thanks. On the steps of a grand mansion, Marianne embraces her father. The lord holds his daughter tight, crying out her name. Toru and Kaede observe the tearful reunion. Kaede quietly reveals the true nature of their foe. He was one of the demon lord's 6 top generals. Even as the weakest, his power was terrifying. Toru's expression hardens. The war is far from over. Later, Marianne's father formally greets Toru. He shakes his hand, thanking him for saving her twice. He offers any reward Toru could possibly want. Toru just waves it off, saying it was nothing. He is simply glad that Marianne is safe. Just then, the maid Urara pulls the lord aside. She whispers the truth about the defeated demon. The lord's eyes go wide with utter shock. He insists Toru must stay at the mansion as their guest. Marianne's eyes sparkle with excitement. That night, a magnificent feast is held in their honor. Nene gorges herself on the food, her cheeks puffed out. Toru watches Kaede, thinking he just wants her to be happy. Urara approaches, asking about Toru's plans for tomorrow. He requests permission to explore the underground ruins again. Marianne asks why he'd want to go back there. A huge grin spreads across his face. He says an unexplored dungeon is an adventurer's romance. Marianne gives him a completely deadpan look. She sighs. knowing it's useless to try and stop him. Suddenly, her own eyes widen with an idea. She declares that she'll go with him. Kate immediately objects, worried for Marianne's safety. Urara agrees that it sounds far too dangerous. Marianne pleads with Toru, grabbing his arm. She swears she won't be a burden. Kaede stares, shocked to hear her call them friends. Toru finally sighs, laying down one firm rule. If it gets dangerous, they retreat immediately. The next morning, they gather at the fountain. Marianne arrives, clanking in a full suit of plate armor. Toru tells her it's completely impractical for exploring. She disappears inside the mansion to change. She returns in a much more suitable adventurer's outfit. Toru gives her an enthusiastic thumbs up. Their guide shows them a glowing map of the ruins. The deeper floors are unmapped and crawling with demons. They descend into the dark, fungal caverns. A small rat scurries across their path. It brushes against a hanging vine and instantly freezes. Horrifyingly, mushrooms erupt from its small body. Kaede realizes the vines are coated in a deadly poison. The path is too treacherous for the others. Toru announces that he will go on alone. He pats a worried Kaede's head, reassuring her. He reminds her of his high level and poison resistance. Marianne grabs his arm, her eyes full of fear for him. She begs him not to do anything rash. He just gives a confident smile and steps into the darkness. Deeper inside, small mushroom monsters surround him. He leaps into action, kicking them into clouds of dust. He notices the poison has absolutely no effect on him. He wonders if this is the power of the dragonfolk. He pushes onward, finding an old, overgrown laboratory. Inside, he discovers a wooden chest full of potions. One particular bottle catches his eye, an ancient elixir. He thinks to himself that this might work. He returns to the girls, holding a key in the elixir. He proudly shows them his findings. Marianne leans in very close, praising his skills. A jealous Kaede tells her she's too close to her master. Urara appears with a stern look, scolding Toru for the commotion. They proceed down to the second floor of the ruins. The area is vast and largely unmapped. Marianne suddenly turns to Toru with a serious expression. She asks him to teach her how to fight. Her voice trembles as she speaks. She tells him she's tired of being so weak. She's tired of always being protected by others. She falls to her knees, begging him for his help. The others look on, moved by her desperate plea. Urara and Kaede agree to support her decision. As Toru accepts, a wave of energy engulfs him, leveling up multiple jobs at once. A brilliant light flashes across the sky over the city. People look up, confused by the sudden bolt from a clear sky. Deep in the ruins, Toru stares at a series of floating screens. He wonders why this had to happen now. It seems his skills have been upgraded as payment. He tells the others his abilities have changed. He asks for a moment to check his new stats. Fu, the fox-eared woman, asks to see them too. He agrees, and her eyes go wide in absolute shock. She tells him every one of his new jobs is superior rank. Dragon Knight, Great Thief, Master Tamer, all top tier. But one job, Imitator, is blurred and unreadable. Toru wonders if it could be a dangerous job. Just then, Marianne's party makes a request. They ask to join Toru's group to show their sincerity. Toru agrees, and the new team ventures into the dungeon. They are immediately swarmed by grotesque monsters. Marianne freezes, letting out a terrified scream. Toru yells at her to never close her eyes during a battle. Shaken, she promises she won't, but she's still overwhelmed by their sheer numbers. Toru calmly tells her to be more confident in her level. A monster lunges at her from the side. Toru intercepts its claw with his bare hand. He glances back at her with a confident smile. See? In a single motion, he obliterates the surrounding creatures. He looks at Marianne, asking if she can do it now. With the others cheering her on, she finds her resolve. The party moves deeper and finds a giant, spider-like beast. This time, Marianne stands her ground and attacks. She defeats the massive monster all by herself. She checks her status, ecstatic to see she has leveled up. The group continues on, reaching what looks like a dead end. Toru senses something strange about the wall. He presses his hand against the solid stone, and it cracks. His companions watch in stunned silence as he opens a path. Inside is a hidden room, with two glowing objects on a pedestal. Fu explains they are eggs of ancient summoned beasts. Toru decides to awaken one, pouring his magic into it. He unleashes his full power, and the air itself begins to distort. The egg glows, cracks, and a fiery claw bursts from the shell. What emerges is a tiny, fluffy creature with one big eye. Sane's companions look defeated. Sane, one of the girls, suggests they return home. She thinks it's not safe to continue like this. She says their kingdom is the perfect place to start over. The hero Sane whips his head around, his face a mask of fury. He screams, demanding to know about the sacred sword. He refuses to go back. Not after that shame. He asserts his authority with a roar. He states they're going to Armand, and that is his final decision. He stalks off, commanding them to follow. His party trails behind, their spirits broken. Meanwhile, far away, another journey unfolds. Toru and Kaede are walking through a sun-dappled forest. Suddenly, a massive, fluffy creature appears. It's a bizarre beast with a single, gigantic eye. Toru shouts in alarm, but Kaede looks entranced. She reaches out a hand, touching its soft fur. She declares that it's very beautiful. Toru eyes it cautiously, admitting it looks cute. But he wonders if it's actually useful for anything. Kaede is already trying to give it a bath. She asks him if they can give it a name. Toru strikes a pose, a grin on his face. He proclaims they shall call him Panda. Kaede claps her hands, saying it's a beautiful name. The little cloud creature lets out a happy chirp. Later, they return to the Count's mansion. The other girls see their new companion. Ren holds Panda in her arms, announcing he's now part of the party. The warrior Lisha smiles, commenting on the unique name. Toru watches them all doting on the creature. He can't help but smile. They all seem to be having fun. After the journey, they appraise the loot from the dungeon. Among the items is a shimmering bottle. Kaede uses her appraisal skill. Her eyes go wide. She tells him what it is. Toru gasps in shock. It's an elixir. The Count confirms it's an ultra-rare item. He suggests they sell it at auction in the royal capital. He knows a rich noble would pay a fortune for it. And so they do. The money is brought before them. It's an overwhelming sight. Towers made of coins. Toru stammers, asking how much this even is. The Count calmly informs him, 500 million. Toru holds a single white gold coin, his eyes sparkling. He's never seen one before in his entire life. As the hero Sane trudges on, his mood is dark. His party's constant failures weigh heavily on him. One of his companions, a redhead, has an idea. She suggests exploring the great unexplored ruins nearby. They could find treasure and make their grand debut. The rest of the party agrees it's a great idea. They arrive at the local Adventurers Guild. It's a grand, ornate building, full of promise. Sane approaches the counter to ask about the ruins. The guildmaster looks at him calmly. He informs Sane the ruins have already been explored. There's nothing left there worth finding. Sane's face strains of all color. He whispers, "What?" He demands to know who could have done it. The guildmaster smirks. He says it was the Manu Brigade. They cleared it out after finishing off a demon general. Sane stands frozen, the name echoing in his ears. That was the name of his tardy, the one Toru was in. His companions look at him, their expressions a mix of pity and concern. One of them, Soara, gently asks if he's all right. But her concern feels like poison. He sees her pitying gaze, and something inside him shatters. "Those eyes," he mutters, a tremor in his voice. He lets out a guttural scream, lunging forward. He tackles Soara, pinning her to the ground. He raises a hand to strike, his face twisted with rage. "How dare you pity me?" he shrieks. The other girls scream for him to stop. They warn him that he's going to kill her, but he's lost in his own personal hell. Soara whispers his name, tears in her eyes. It hurts. The crowd outside the guild is starting to gather. Sane realizes this is bad for his reputation. He thinks to himself that he has to do something. A dark power glimmers in his eye. He activates his demon eye. A wave of energy washes over his companions. Their struggles cease. Their eyes go blank. He stands up, brushing himself off. With his party now under his complete control, he turns. He marches them out of town. towards Armand. He will get the sacred sword. He will become perfect again. At the same time, Toru and Kaede walk hand in hand, smiling, towards their own bright future. In the desolate ruins of an old castle, Toru tests his new power. A bladed whip erupts from his hand, tearing through the sky. It skewers a pack of attacking wyverns in a single, brutal strike. Toru catches the creature's head, praising its fine work. Later, at their camp, Katie asks if she can prepare dinner. She proudly announces that a friend taught her how to cook. Toru happily agrees, anticipating a delicious meal. His face drains when he sees the grotesque ingredients. A giant mottled frog hangs limply from a chain. A living mandrake root squirms in her hand. She cheerfully explains she'll disembowel the frog first. Then she tosses a handful of eyeballs into the pot for seasoning. The stew bubbles, a horrifying and unnatural shade of purple. Toru stares into the pot, questioning all of his life choices. But Kaede serves him a bowl with a proud, beaming smile. Seeing how hopeful she is, he knows he can't refuse. He takes a single, reluctant bite, steeling himself. His eyes snap wide open in utter disbelief. Against all odds, it's unbelievably delicious. Overjoyed, Katie tackles him in an ecstatic hug. She nuzzles against him, happily sniffing his scent. Without thinking, Toru reaches out and pets her soft, fluffy tail. Kaede lets out a surprised yelp, her face flushing bright red. A bitter memory flashes through Toru's mind. His ex-lover's voice, taunting him for buying a slave. He looks at Kaede, who's smiling warmly beside him. He pushes the thought away. This was good. Their quiet moment is shattered by approaching screeches. Wyverns descend, drawn by the smell of their incredible food. Toru decides to let his new beast, Razke, handle them. The bladed creature erupts from his hand, a blur of motion. The dragons are annihilated in an instant. Toru can only marvel at its overwhelming power. They finally arrive at the magnificent capital city, Armand. As they walk, a massive beast stampedes down the main road. It throws two famous adventurers aside like dolls. It charges straight for a mother holding her terrified child. Toru tells Kaede that he will handle this one. He unleashes his dark power, stopping the beast in its tracks. He's thanked by a man he saved, a merchant of some importance. The merchant agrees to help Toru with a request, but he tells him to return tomorrow night, dressed for trouble. The next night, Toru stands awkwardly in his formal suit. He complains that the clothes are far too stiff. Kaede, in a stunning gown, reassures him that he looks cool. Their carriage pulls up to a grand, Gothic estate. The merchant, Marquis Roan, greets them personally at the door. He seems relieved, quickly ushering them inside. He leads them to a private room, his expression now serious. He warns them not to tell anyone where they are going next. Kaede asks if it is some sort of dangerous place. Roan explains that the person they will meet is of high status. Therefore, their meeting must be a secret audience. Toru thinks to himself, an audience with who? Their carriage travels through the darkness toward a cliffside castle. Roan promises that this meeting will benefit them greatly. They arrive and are led up a magnificent spiral staircase. They enter an opulent waiting room, filled with books. Toru muses that this is his first time meeting someone so important, and then a man with a long, white beard and a crown enters. He is flanked by armored guards, his presence commanding. This is the king of Armand himself. The king announces this will be an unofficial audience. He gets straight to the point, asking the adventurer for a favor. The imperial capital, he says, is in grave danger. Toru asks what he wants him to do. The king's request is simple and terrifying. He must eradicate the Death Ant Queen. The king explains his army is in a lamentable state. Villages near the ants. Nests have already been devoured. A bead of sweat drips down Toru's face. The king says it's only a matter of time before the capital falls. He stares Toru down, asking if he can do it or not. After a tense silence, Toru looks up with confidence. He calmly states, I can. The king is taken aback, offering him the title of hero. Toru politely declines, saying he's not interested in that. If the king wants to give him something, he wants money. The king offers an incredible sum, 300 million. A satisfied smile spreads across Toru's face. He says that's more than enough, and they have a deal. They will leave tomorrow with a guide from the army. The king still can't understand why he'd refuse the title. Toru simply says he doesn't like to stand out. The next day, they journey into a beautiful, sun-dappled forest. But the serene mood is shattered by a grim discovery. The corpses of fallen soldiers are scattered everywhere. Their guide, the corps commander, warns them they are near the nest. Kaede asks if death ants are really that dangerous. The men stare at her, shocked by her ignorance. Toru realizes Kaede has strange gaps in her common knowledge. Just then, glowing red eyes appear in the shadows. The guide gasps. They've been completely surrounded. An army of grotesque, skeletal insects emerges from the trees. The commander panics, remembering how they destroyed his troops. He grinds his teeth, wondering if the king made a mistake. Toru watches the horde charge, simply saying, "Here they come." He swings his blade in a massive, glowing arc. A powerful shockwave erupts, sending monsters flying. From a nearby tree stump, Kaede raises her hands. She unleashes a spell, crying out, "Air press!" The magic carves a massive crater into the forest floor. The guide stares in absolute disbelief at the raw power. To find the nest, Kaede decides to clear the area. She summons 2 immense tornadoes that tear through the woods. Then she casts again, shouting, "Ice Age!" The entire landscape is instantly frozen into a jagged wasteland. The commander is horrified, scolding her for overdoing it. Kaede bows her head, apologizing for being out of practice. Feeling utterly useless, the guide asks to return to the capital. Toru and Kaede now stand alone in the icy devastation. In the center, they find a deep, narrow hole in the ground. This must be the entrance to the death ants' nest. It's too narrow to fight in, too deep to attack from above. Kaede idly wishes the nest was a dungeon instead. A light bulb goes off in Toru's head. He recalls his unique ability, Dungeon Authority. He wonders if he can place a dungeon right here. A grin spreads across his face as a plan forms. With a shout, he activates his hidden power. A colossal, multi-tiered tower erupts from the frozen ground. He remembers the owner can freely move to any floor. He shouts, "Transfer!" and the world dissolves around them. They reappear instantly on the dungeon's bottom floor. They are face to face with the Death Ant Queen herself. The queen shrieks in fury at the intruders in her nest. She orders her children to turn them into minced meat, but in a flash, her entire army is obliterated. The queen stares in horror at the gory remains. Then, a chilling grin spreads across her face. She begins to devour the corpses of her own children. She transforms, her level soaring as she lunges to attack.